The Great British Baking Show is in the middle of its 15th season right now. It's the ultimate comfort show, perfect to pair with the holiday season. I absolutely love it. I'd give it the Adam Tinius handshake if that meant anything, but sadly it doesn't. A common grievance you'll hear from diehard fans is that the show has declined in quality over the years. But is that true? What all has actually changed after 15 seasons inside the tent? Is it all bad? And is there any hope for the future of the Great British Baking Show?
On your marks, get set, bake!
Before I dive into that, let me thank the sponsor of this video, Raycon. I live in Los Angeles, crammed inside a small apartment with my wife and 2 kids. My life is pretty loud, and that's why I love Raycon's wireless earbuds. They help provide some much-needed peace and quiet. Now, if I want to go for a walk in the city or do a little baking of my own, hopefully something without a soggy bottom, I can use my headphones to listen to music, podcasts, and audiobooks. And with their new active noise cancellation, all the unwanted sounds of the outside world can't spill in and distract me. Raycon has a wireless case with a quick charge function. In just 10 minutes of charging, the earbuds can hold 90 minutes of battery. They fit comfortably in my ear and are now weatherproof and sweat resistant. Raycon gives you everything you want in earbuds: comfortable feel, great sound quality, touch features, durability, and affordability, since these are only a fraction of the cost compared to other brands. With big Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales coming up, Raycon is offering fans of Entertain the Elk a special discount. Just go to buyraycon.com/elk to get up to 30% off. It's a great way to support my channel while also treating yourself to an excellent gift at the same time. Thanks to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the essay. The Great British Baking Show, or Great British Bake Off for my friends across the pond, started with the simple idea of a baking competition. It was inspired by the popular bake-offs that take place in America. That's actually why it's called the Great British Baking Show in America and Canada, because the term bake-off is a trademark owned by Pillsbury. Cooking competition shows have always been around, but they seem to have this resurgence in popularity in the mid-2000s, with Hell's Kitchen, Top Chef, and Chopped. So the Great British Baking Show certainly wasn't anything new, but what made it stand out from the rest was the overall tone of the show. The stereotypical mean Brit judge that was made popular by Simon Cowell on American Idol.
I have no professional training of singing or dancing, so.
Well, there's the surprise of the century.
And Gordon Ramsay in Hell's Kitchen.
If I tell you to get out there, I don't give a f*** if you got a thumb up your fat crack. Get out there!
Was replaced with kinder, soft-spoken judges like Mary Berry and Paul Hollywood. The cutthroat contestants, always looking to backstab their way to potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, was replaced with supportive, friendly bakers hoping to win the prize of a simple cake stand. And the constant barrage of screaming was replaced with playful banter and quiet tea sipping. The concept of a friendlier, quieter, cozier baking show didn't attract a lot of attention from networks. The idea was so counter to everything that was popular on TV, and so it took 4 years before it finally found a home on BBC Two. I went back and rewatched some episodes from the first season for the first time in like a decade, and I was blown away by how different it is from the recent seasons. There's the more obvious changes, like the shuffling of cast members. Judge Mary Berry and presenters Mel and Sue left the show after 7 seasons when the show changed networks from BBC to Channel 4. New Judge Prue and presenters Noel and Sandy appeared in Season 8, though Sandy only lasted for 3 seasons, and replacement Matt Lucas only lasted for 3 more seasons, before Alison Hammond came on board in Season 14. Many fans of the Great British Baking Show think it went downhill when it changed networks and lost the original cast, and I can understand that. The unique dynamic between Paul and Mary and the comedic rapport between Mel and Sue is one of the elements that made the show work so well.
I've got good news and bad news. Good news is great. Bad news, I've eaten it all.
But in the impossible task of replacing them, I think Prue does exactly what she needs to do without getting in the way, and Noel is a delightfully weird gem who has infused a lot more welcomed humor into the show.
That looks like expensive meat, actually, which is weird because we found that in a skip.
even if the dynamic between Noel and Matt did tend to get a little one-note and over the top in their 3 seasons together. That's another change I noticed in the earlier seasons, particularly season 1. The tone is almost humorless. It's very dry. The show is still packed with a lot of heart and earnestness. Our first baking-related cry even comes in the very first episode. But the playful humor and innuendos the show would become known for didn't come until later seasons. And now, humor is such an important dynamic of the show, keeping the episodes fun, energetic, while also helping us get to see different sides of the bakers in the tent. Speaking of, the tent has become one of the most important characters on the show, with its own unique dynamic that is so important to the overall show. But even the tent itself has changed over the years. In the very first season, the tent moved across the UK every week, landing in towns tied to the history of particular bakes. At every location, people could be seen gathering and gawking outside the tent, and one of the more jarring details of the first season is that there's a palpable chaos inside the tent. Lights are seen above every contestant, you can see other crew members in the background, and the constant noise of baking was a lot louder. The overall lighting of the show has changed too. The first season was very dark and drab, a lot more muted colors, far from the bright lights and vibrant colors that the show has become known for. All you have to do is compare the artist sketches that accompany each baker's dish to spot the difference. In the first season, it was a simple black and white sketch that you might find inside someone's cookbook. They started adding a little bit of color to those drawings in later seasons, and now the drawings have become beautiful, colorful, detailed sketches. After season 1, the tent stopped moving locations and instead landed in a more secluded spot away from prying eyes. The electrical equipment and the crew members were hidden better, and the saturation was dialed up to 11. All of these decisions went into making the environment of the tent feel more serene, warm, and cozy. If you've watched the show long enough, you know that there's an energy inside the tent.
There's a tent right over there, and it's very scary.
People are on edge, making simple mistakes they would never make at home.
When we look at the tent, it's the feeling you get when you walk for the first time into the Sistine Chapel.
It can be sweltering hot or biting cold, affecting the bakers and their bakes. Tensions are running high, but that's balanced with the humor and cozy vibes.
Just noticed I'm not putting my fruit in. That would help.
Yeah. This is a sweet fruit loaf.
I'm adding chocolate now, which I did also
I'm really
forget.
glad I came along.
Being in the tent is the most interesting part of the show, and that's something that Bake Off had to learn. The first season is the only season of the show that had a disembodied narrator in Stephen Noonan. I found the narrator overused in the first season. It became annoying and took away from the characters inside the tent. Plus, since we never got to see the narrator, it was impossible to form any kind of relationship with them. Luckily, they just had presenters do the voiceover narration in the future seasons. Another element that literally took us outside the tent were the historical segments that Mel and Sue would go on. As interesting as these segments were, they just became more of a nuisance, breaking the tension inside the tent. They did these a lot in the early seasons, but gradually petered off. It's come back a few times, but always with mixed reception. I think one of the strongest moments on the show are the quiet moments inside the tent. The times when the presenters can do bits.
That's fine. Bye-bye. Bye, Shamira. Bye-bye.
Or when the characters can talk and support each other while sipping on some tea. Again, the tent is magical. Stay inside the tent. There's been a lot of aesthetic changes and format changes, but I haven't even gotten to the baking changes. The second challenge, called the Technical Challenge, wasn't really blind in the beginning, as Paul and Mary walked around, observing the bakers and offering more help. The final deliberation between the judges had this bizarre sepia slowed down frame rate to portray flashbacks. And then there are iconic bake-off elements that are strangely absent from the first season. The final challenge wasn't called the showstopper, it was just called the Final Challenge, and the judges didn't start awarding weekly star bakers until season 2. It wasn't even until season 3 that Paul Hollywood gave out his first ever handshake.
Well done, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well done. They are very, very good.
A lot of these are normal changes to a show. It's kind of like a pilot episode. It looks different and sounds different, but the core elements still remain. It's all about hammering out the kinks, finding out what works and what doesn't work. Most of these I would consider positive changes. But now for the negative changes. In the very first episode of the show, Paul Hollywood says that the second bake, the technical challenge, is perhaps the most important bake of the three. And though the first seasons might have kept to that thinking, the technical bake's importance has diminished in the following years. It's become an afterthought. Maybe the last deciding factor between someone staying or going, but usually it counts for nothing. Its main purpose now is really as this opportunity to bully the contestants with an extremely difficult bake.
This is a car crash.
In the first few seasons, technical challenges involved scones, soufflés, focaccia, and donuts. Even if the bakers haven't made one before, they've probably seen it or eaten it before. But in the later seasons, they were tasked with making a tennis cake, campfire pita, Sussex pond puddings. The recipes are becoming less familiar, they have more steps and ingredients, and the overall difficulty has gotten higher and higher.
That is disgusting.
The Great British Baking Show has helped spark an interest in amateur baking. The contestants have gotten better, and so the challenges need to rise to meet that. Also, you just can't have bakers making a simple cake every week. That would get boring. But the bakes used to seem achievable. I even have a Great British Baking Show cookbook from one of the earlier seasons. Those are bakes I feel like I could maybe achieve. But now, watching most of these bakes just terrifies me. Some people might like the chaos that comes with these impossible bakes, but the manufactured drama flies in the face of the coziness that defined the Great British Baking Show and made it stand apart from other anxiety-inducing cooking shows. Another low point for Bake Off has come with their national themed weeks.
Bakers, hello, or should I say, konnichiwa, because for the first time ever, it's Japanese week.
Season 11 had a Japanese week, Season 12 had a German week, and Season 13 had a Mexican week.
Is Mexico a real place? I think so. Well, I think it's like Xanadu.
All of these episodes, though I'm sure well-intentioned, were complete messes. Japan Week conflated different types of Asian cuisine, with many bakers opting to use Indian and Chinese flavors in their dishes.
So I'm gonna make them look like little pandas.
Some incorporated pandas, again Chinese, not Japanese, and attempted to make a French bake more Japanese by throwing in matcha. German Week was interesting because there was actually a German baker in the tent at the time, Jürgen, who pointed out that the whole concept of the Showstopper Challenge, consisting of a tiered yeast-leavened cake, would never be done in Germany, to which Paul admitted that they had, quote, anglicized it. And Mexico Week probably had the most blowback from viewers. The show dipped into casual racism and stereotypes, and there were also butchered pronunciations of certain words.
It has to be tacos.
Tell me about the fillings.
You've got a pico de gallo, which is basically a salsa.
Again, I'm sure these episodes were approached with the best intentions, trying to display variety and diversity of bakes around the world, but without someone from those countries serving as a guest judge, helping educate on the dishes and culture, the episodes just veered in the wrong direction. So, is there any hope for the future of the Great British Baking Show? Of course there is. I think the show has made some really important corrections going into season 14. Matt Lucas was replaced with Alison Hammond, and even though I never hated Matt Lucas, the similarities between him and Noel just made a lot of the humor one-note and overly bizarre. It lost some of its sincerity. Alison Hammond's bubbly personality is infectious, especially her laugh that can brighten an entire room.
It's too sticky.
What makes you say that?
She's been a welcomed addition. And after the Mexican Week debacle, the show decided to scrap its national-themed challenges. Executive producer Kieran Smith said, "We didn't want to offend anyone, but the world has changed and the joke fell flat." Smith insisted that season 13 would go back to the more traditional bake-off style. We're doing all the regular weeks, cakes, biscuits, bread, patisserie, chocolate. The Great British Baking Show has certainly changed over its 15-year run, but it's not all bad. The show still manages to serve up laughs, heart, sincerity, kindness, and of course, beautiful bakes on a weekly basis that viewers crave. And I hope they continue to do so for many years to come.
And I enjoyed every minute.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this video. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like it, share it with a friend, or leave me a comment below. Just engage with this video in any way. It really does help motivate the algorithm gods to push this video so that way more people can see it. Thank you to my patrons out there for supporting the channel. It really does mean a lot. Another reminder that if you haven't already checked out my new film podcast, 50 States of Cinema, please do so. A quick summary of the show. Basically, I have a guest on from a particular state, and we talk about living in that state, the good, the bad, and the weird, and then we dissect a movie set in that state to see what it got right and wrong, everything in between, what we love about the movie, what we hate about the movie. It's just a different way of dissecting films by focusing on the setting, specifically the state in which they're set. I'll have a link below so you can go check it out. Thanks again everyone for watching this video, and I will see you all very soon.